Welcome everyone to the Hybrid Athlete Podcast, episode number 41. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm just going to basically get into some of the stuff that I've been going through in my personal life, as well as just kind of catch up on fitness and everything. So we're basically looking at end of 2025, right? So my personal timeline has been that I've been sharing content. I've been sharing kind of my journey, physical journey in terms of, I have these shorts that you can see that kind of like track my physical progress and kind of show my gains, so to speak, as I've been kind of, gaining weight probably on a rate of like 3 to 5 pounds a year when I'm probably 6 to 8 pounds a year when I'm really like kind of dialed in and not doing endurance. So I'm basically like a year and a half into that process. So basically I put on quite a bit of weight at the beginning, just kind of like a recovery from doing 26-mile marathon, Ironman in 2023 and all that stuff. But now I'm like, pretty much a year and a half going on. I'm going to, complete this next summer in 2026, like 2 full years of like, okay, bodybuilding focus, like just hard weight training, some high intensity interval training, some HIIT training, and then just getting more into kind of like, build muscle, potentially do like bodybuilding. If not do an actual amateur show, like definitely do like a full bulk and cut, kind of go like Sam Sulek style, just kind of like continuously put weight on, but like do it the right way. Eat good calories, just eat more, do a cut, kind of get lean, get shredded as much as I can. And go from there. But my personal, belief is that like I'm not big enough at my height at 6'1", 6'1.5" to basically do like a hard cut yet, because I haven't put on enough mature muscles since quitting endurance. So, I'm in my early 30s. So anyone who's new to my content, I'm kind of a guy that likes to kind of go through everything, give you like a summary of like what I've done in the past, few weeks, few months. I focus on mesocycle, so like basically training the same style or the same, way, like 1 to 3 months, kind of ultimately, and then kind of get into more of some episodes are specific exercises, some are more just like diet and nutrition, and kind of I integrate those. But this time it's going to be more of just kind of how my fitness, kind of transforms my mind overall and stuff, and how I've kind of used it to kind of like build my life in a way that I want, in terms of being very responsible, being very diligent, regimented, and then maybe speak to you a few things at the end of this podcast, this particular episode, that maybe helps to capture the attention of a few more people that have been like, noticed my content, maybe seen some of the shorts of like, I just do like the same kind of physique pose and the same, scenario, the same setup in my bathroom, and just kind of like, provide some evidence to to the fact that like, oh, I'm basically speaking to, oh, I've put on this much weight, I'm getting stronger, I'm making these gains. But I think the physical results speak of themselves. Like I have made some significant progress since summer of 2024, or spring of 2024, when I did my last marathon. Now it's a pretty much a body weight of like 203 to 206, pretty much a fluctuate between that body weight. I'm happy with how I look so far. I got a little bit of, extra stubborn belly fat that I want to get rid of once I do like a legitimate cut. I think that's going to come basically when the time calls for it. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to continue a lean bulk. So my message is basically I'm on a lean bulk. I lift basically 6 days a week. I take one off day, which is Sunday. Um, and I've provided, 20, 30 episodes now of kind of like, initially it was like, here's what I'm doing on races. I'm taking the same approach when it comes to lifting. Like, here's the miles I've ran, here's my, caloric intake, here's my sleep schedule, here's mentally how I've benefited from doing this stuff. And then it's the same thing here, basically, right? So my focus is like, I'm very disciplined in like when I go to the gym, how much I work out, the effort I give, and all that. And that's translated into my personal life. I think it's no mystery that, people can get a lot of benefits from, basically being dedicated to their workouts. Not just like your brain is feeling better, like you get dopamine, but more of like your brain in a disciplined state is just healthier, in terms of there's evidence that suggests that there's a part of your brain, I forget the name, but Dr. Andrew Huberman was talking about it with David Goggins this last month. It's like when you force yourself to do things that you don't want to do, this section of your brain literally grows physically. It's like it grows in your brain. I think it's like towards the back of the brain. I can't remember which lobe it is, but basically that's kind of, a scientific fact and scientific backing that, okay, when you do something continuously that you might not necessarily want to do, then you get a lot of benefits from it. And to be completely honest, like I probably really want to work out like 2 to 3 times a week, but I go 6 times a week, 7 times, twice a day on Mondays, and then 6 specific days every week without fail. I've done that for the last, 6 to 8 years, I've basically not really missed a full week unless I'm sick, which is hardly ever. It's happened like once in the last 10 years that I've been sick. Sick meaning I can't work out. And then vacation, I still find a way to get exercise in and work out. So that's really kind of like the biggest takeaway that I have that I want to share going into this kind of nuance of my fitness, and as well as like my view on the world and how the political, religious, state of the world is right now, because there's so much attention into it. I feel like I should talk about it and kind of mix it in with my personal fitness brand. So I'm basically showing you kind of my logo, which is kind of the American Hybrid Athlete. So, that can be interpreted in whatever way works for you. So it can be kind of, oh, like I like doing endurance, so I'm a hybrid endurance, or it can be like I'm a bodybuilder, so like, oh, this guy's talking about, different types of weightlifting techniques or different types of experience with fitness that I haven't experienced before. This is cool. Let me check this out. So my audience is kind of capturing, male or female, basically between the ages of like you just started working out, you're a teenager, or like, you're in your 50s just trying to, kind of stay as healthy as you can, stay healthy, avoid getting sick, avoid getting a disease, whatever. So there's really no preference here. But bottom line, I'll get right into kind of the physical, the fitness side of things, and then I'll switch over into kind of the last philosophical, we could say, section of this piece of this video, which will kind of be kind of like the execution, or like the template that I'm going to use going forward, especially to finish this year. But basically, what I've been doing is I've been like kind of focusing on the same output and then improved recovery, and then I switch from improved recovery into more volume, more weight, more intensity, and then I kind of like alternate that. So it's kind of an advanced concept, I feel, but like I think if you're getting more advanced in your fitness, you should focus on the base is obviously there, the consistency of like I get my water in, I get my calories in. I don't not go to the gym because I know even when I don't want to show up, I show up. That's a must. But then further than that, it's like how can I get an edge on like the effort that I give as well as the outcome of my effort. So I've previously spoken about like maybe like I alternate intensity of a specific exercise, or I do like high low volume or high low intensity. So I might go like all out on a heavy back set exercise, and then I do a lighter one for more technique, and then I alternate. Like I'll go from heavy light on a back workout, which would look like barbell heavy rows. Maybe form isn't the best, and then I go into like concentrated like perfect form lat pull downs or lat seated cable rows or something, and then I go back into like one arm dumbbell rows where I just kind of like crank on the weight, something like that. So it's kind of an alternation, and I've discovered that gives me good benefits of I'm getting both like I'm maintaining flexibility and form, as well as like really like pushing the intensity of a specific rep to maybe get the highest, another scientific perspective, like get the highest EMG activity, basically the highest trigger of those type 2 muscle fibers that I think they're type 1 muscle fibers that basically just trigger that quick reflex, like pull this weight as hard as you can. It's heavy, you're straining your muscle, you're straining your ligaments, your joints. That's kind of, the bad part of like lifting heavier weight is like, if you do that for 20 years, you're definitely going to have some joint pain, some back pain, whatever. But I think you need to like, if you really want to get better, you really just need to suck it up and like do heavier weights, fairly frequently. So that's kind of a recap. And that's kind of, what I'm going to talk about now is kind of, going from that concept of heavy light, or high, low, high, low. I'm focused on like every week, like how do I feel on a specific day? If I'm doing the same, my week is typically like Monday is like back or chest, like push or pull, and then Tuesday and Wednesday is legs or back, depending on what I did on Monday. So like I'm hitting my entire body, the largest muscle groups at least once Monday through Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is more of just like, okay, Thursday might be like a hit day with like a smaller muscle group. Friday is like back into like maybe just active recovery with like arms or something. So another small muscle group. And then I hit my larger muscle group that I hit on Monday once more on that Saturday, if that makes sense. So you're basically looking at like, Monday to a hit session too. So I have like 2 to 3 hit sessions, meaning like boxing or like like assault bike interval training with jump rope or something that really gets my heart rate up, but is now replacing my steady state cardio. So tracking these adjustments, I'm thinking, okay, what's my overall volume and what's my overall output? Like think of it like a science equation. Like my body's a machine. Weekly output is X. X divided by Y, time working out or whatever, is efficiency. But then we bring in another variable of recovery, meaning like, do I do the same workouts 4 weeks in a row? The answer should be no. But if you are doing the same workouts 3 to 4 weeks in a row, the progress made should be recovery is easier. I'll give you an example. So if I have a leg day and I basically say, okay, I'm going to squat 275 pounds for 5 sets, X number of reps. And then I do that and I'm just tanked after the workout. Like I wake up the next day, my legs are sore as hell. The next day they're still sore. It takes me like 4 or 5 days just to recover to be able to do another leg workout, maybe working quads on a machine or something, but whatever that is, that's a recovery variable in it. And then what I say is 2 weeks from now, if I do that same workout, I'll be pretty much feel fully recovered within less than 72 hours. So my recovery improves from the same volume and intensity. That translation, that basically is like the plateau that I step up and I say, okay, let me go from 275 to 295 and do ideally the same volume. It's going to be a crushing workout. I'm probably barely going to get through it if I give the same effort and really try to like scale that up and say, okay, now my recovery is going to go back to, instead of taking 2 to 3 days, it's going to take 5 days again, and then kind of like alternate. So I'm basically stepping on top of, if this makes sense, stepping on top of recovery to make that easier. Then I'm pushing out volume, workout intensity, total weight, whatever. Then I do it again. So I do that 3 to 4 times, and then I step up weight. If recovery kind of catches up to that, I do it again. So it's kind of like an alternation of like, it's almost like the bulk cut philosophy of like, okay, I want to make one of these things easier so that I can actually improve. Do I make the weight feel lighter, or do I make my recovery time less? And I would suggest not doing both those things at the same time. So that's kind of my fitness message today. And I want to give like maybe kind of one or two more examples of like, you know, how it looks for like whatever level you're at. If you're in a very advanced lifter and you're saying, I'm going to do like almost like a deload week, or like I'm going to scale back because I do a lot. Maybe I have a competition. Maybe I'm getting ready for a show or something. And I'm like calorie depleted. How do I do that? My input, my opinion is like either scale back one or two of your exercises and then focus on maintaining the other ones while you're calorie depleted. The exercises that maybe focus on your strongest body part or something, maybe you're calorie depleted, you got a bodybuilding show in 2 to 3 weeks, and you're saying, okay, I know my back's good, I'm ready, my back looks fine, looks great, but my legs, I want to keep my legs full, as I'm cutting. Focus on legs, deprioritize back so that like your recovery remains the same, but your volume or your intensity maybe like is what you give, is what you sacrifice, if that makes sense. That's kind of my input when you're like dealing with more than just, oh, I want to keep growing, I'm new, or I'm intermediate, I want to just keep growing. Because it's easy to say, I just want to get bigger, I just want to get stronger or whatever. But when you're trying to fine tune your fitness, when you're trying to prepare for a competition or do something a little bit above and beyond, I would say this philosophy still tracks and makes sense, if that makes sense. I hope that does. So I think that's enough on kind of the fitness side. There's like I'm gonna share like a cool kind of video clip here from one of my favorite movies for love of the game, and then I'm gonna talk about why I'm sharing this. So here, this is a good. I love this part. I think you guys know what video this is too, what movie this is with Kevin Costner. All right, so that is from one of my favorite movies for love of the game. And the reason I share that clip is because I want people to think about, like, really think about, like, what type of noise they're dealing with in 2025. Because it doesn't matter if you're focused on good things or like studying and learning about good things or following good things in social media, following godly things, following health and fitness. In a way, that stuff has been infiltrated too by, I'm not going to call it the enemy, I'm not going to say like it's from the devil, but what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of noise because we have access to so many resources, so many people like myself, independent journalists, researchers, contributors to online content. They can literally say whatever the hell they want, and that's typically a good thing. But the smart people kind of recognize that as, okay, that's kind of dangerous and that's kind of damaging, because there can be conspiracy theories, there can be 10 different ways to skin a cat when it comes to fitness, when it comes to improving yourself and improving how you feel about yourself, your life, your individual psychology and all that. And I would just encourage people to clear the mechanism. and just say like, okay, there's so much noise coming at me. Let me focus before when I wake up in the morning. Let me take 10 or 15 minutes and say, and I write notes all the time. Like I'm literally writing all the time. And my wife is like, how come you write so much? And it's like a premeditative state of like, I'm going to write about what I'm going to do because I don't want to be distracted by anything. I don't want to jump on my phone in the morning on YouTube and get distracted by some, go down the rabbit hole of whatever shows up in my news feed or whatever. I don't want to be at work and then kind of get distracted by, oh, this is like this is like one way I can do my job. This is a new technical development in the world of data, and because I work in tech, so it's like, okay, there's so many new things coming at me. How do I itemize things and focus on them? And I encourage people to take a lesson from their fitness and say, a metaphor would be like, while you're doing a pull up, you don't try to like pull up with one arm and then do a curl, right? You don't try to, when you're squatting, you don't try to squat with the bar and balance it with one hand and do an overhead tricep extension. You look like a fucking idiot, right? So it's the same thing with your life and with your philosophy and with how you educate yourself and how you, in your work, your interaction with business, your basically your life outside of fitness should be the same thing. It's like, okay, I go to the gym with a premeditated determination of I'm going to work this muscle group, I'm going to work this body part, and I'm not going to pay attention to people that tell me to do it this way, that way. I'm going to find a way that works, find a way that's effective, and then clear the mechanism, clear the noise, just like Kevin Costner did in the movie, and then just kind of like focus on that and execute. And what I've discovered, especially in my recent life, is like when I clear that noise and I execute on one or two things, the rest of the noise, not only does it go away, but newer things that come in are simpler because I've done it before. So it's a positive feedback loop of, okay, I was overwhelmed by 10 to 15 things at work, 10 to 15 things in my personal life. My kids are giving me 10 to 15 comments or whatever. They're asking for 10 or 15 things. And then I say, let me execute these 2 to 3 things flawlessly today within the next 6, 8, 10 hours, and then let me move on to the next. So that'll also, like, the benefit of that is that you build skills quicker, you build communication skills quicker. You give people the sense that you're not overwhelmed, you're not anxious, because there's so much anxiety in the world today. There's so many people that go online, learn about a conspiracy. I didn't want to talk about it, but I mean, the Charlie Kirk assassination is like just crazy because there's the FBI telling you one thing. There's people that have YouTube channels that are spreading one piece of news. They have some evidence, they don't have the whole story, and then they contradict and they basically declare other people who want the same solution as an enemy, and they turn against each other. That's just a kind of a microcosm of the way that society functions now. So I encourage people that are, especially I'm talking to the advanced people too, the people that have been working out, diligently for the last 5 to 10 years, just like stick with one or two skills, stick with one or two things at work, that'll enable you to help people around you and come off as a strong-minded individual. And that's the one thing I learned kind of from again, going back to the clear the mechanism message, is like, I've been able to kind of like not be scatterbrained really at all, ideally, and then just kind of dial in on 1, 2, 3 things on a daily basis. Then when I step away from that task, from that work, like if I go to work and I feel overwhelmed, I'm going to come home and I'm going to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to basically transfer the energy to my wife, to my children, whatever. So it's kind of like a systematic thing to where take those, and I'm trying to, basically share this lesson that I've learned in fitness. So I encourage you to take those lessons that you learn in fitness, apply them to the rest of your life. Basically use a broad brush, which you typically don't want to do all the time. But in this case, use a broad brush and kind of paint your life with, okay, I'm going to focus on execution and quantify it, right? If you're a more skilled individual, maybe you're starting out with better communication skills, your job requires you to know more things. Say, I'm going to tackle 5 to 8 tasks. Find that Goldilocks zone, like if it's just if you're a young guy, if you're like in college, or if you're just starting out, there's these cool influencers that send a good message, or just like literally block out all the noise, like just shut up for like 3 months and just work your ass off. And then you'll see like that might change the trajectory of your life. I've changed the trajectory of my life by specific timeframes that are like 3 to 6 months of like working very, very hard and kind of being in isolation. There's a blessing when it comes to working in isolation, but there's also a necessity for you to build communication skills. So the last thing I'll mention on this is when you build better communication skills through internal meditation, through focus on the most important tasks and blocking the noise, you will see kind of like a snowball effect of, okay, everything becomes easier, or everything kind of becomes like a little bit more manageable and you feel less overwhelmed. You feel like less inclined to drink alcohol, to consume things that are bad for you. If you want to have a good sex life, a physical, life with your partner and all that, when you have everything kind of managed and under control from using this strategy, I think it falls into place. So I just wanted to share that. I think this was a good episode to kind of introduce kind of the the hybrid athlete from a perspective of physical as well as mental, because I had a couple of early episodes when I was doing my races and prepping where I got into like, set a schedule, minute by minute, know what you're doing in the day. That's all good. But this is getting more into kind of like, how do you ingest everything that's coming at you? Because it's unavoidable, right? Like, I work a job, and, after the election in 2024, when Trump was elected, they sent out a company wide email that basically just kind of said, don't criticize anyone about the election results. People are sensitive. So that sensitivity is kind of like just bled into our entire world of, okay, well, everyone wants to, you know, feel like a victim. That's one piece of it, but also kind of feel like they're living their truth because there's really no way to find the truth. And I'll leave you with this. I think you find the truth by obviously turning to God, and I'll talk about that next episode, but turning to like just gravitating towards the stuff that you know is good for you, and not lying to yourself and saying, because everyone's doing this, I'm going to start doing this because it's good for me, because I'm told that it's good for me. You know yourself better than anyone, and you're going to discover kind of the secrets to life, and you're going to kind of, discover how to have the best impact on those closest to you when you take this approach that I'm encouraging you to do. Simplify and then magnify. I would say that's like a good kind of phrase to think about it in terms of simplify one to two, three, four, five. If you're capable of 6, 7, 8 tasks, but no more than 10, I would say, depending on the complexity. Simplify, then magnify, then make those more impactful, make those as impactful as you can. We'll get into more into it next episode, but thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.